Hey, I'm Jeff, your research nerd. I have more than 20 years experience doing research and communications for political campaigns, companies, and trade associations. On this channel, we talk about how to find information that's useful in your daily life, your business, or your education. Today, I want to talk about how to invest like a politician, or to find out how politicians invest their money. And one thing at the top, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. I'm also not an attorney, so this is not legal advice. This is simply just telling you how to find information on how politicians invest their money. One thing I also want to ask is please like this video and subscribe to the channel. I know no one has ever told you that on YouTube before, but it really does help me grow the channel, and I would appreciate your help in doing that. It also helps other smart people like yourself find this information. This is an interesting issue because there's a debate going on right now in Congress about whether or not members of Congress should even be allowed to invest in things like stocks, and whether that creates too many conflicts of interest, given that members of Congress have access to all sorts of information, even though they have to disclose their investments, which for a long time was met the transparency requirement supposedly to avoid these conflicts of interest. But more and more people have felt like that's not enough, and that maybe members of Congress shouldn't even be able to invest, or maybe they should have to put their money in a blind trust or mutual funds or something like that, not specific securities. So that debate remains to be settled. But for now, members of Congress are still disclosing their finances, and also members of the people who serve in the executive branch, like the president and vice president, also disclose their finances. And state and local officials typically have to as well. Every state I can think of has some kind of financial disclosure or conflict of interest disclosure that they have to sign and file. Now, I've never seen one in a state that has a level of information and detail that the federal disclosures do, but your state may have something like that. I confess I haven't seen a financial disclosure in every single state, so there may be some magic one out there that is really comprehensive. But so I'm not going to go into those because there's so many different kinds. Like I said, they vary by state, but at the federal level, there are these disclosures, and they do give quite a bit of information. So we'll start out looking in the Senate. There's a website, efdsearch.senate.gov, and I'm going to search for Senator Gary Peters. And the reason I'm searching for Senator Peters is because, so he's a senator from Michigan, and he was a financial advisor and planner long before he was in Congress. So I think his financial disclosure is particularly interesting because he has a very broad set of investments. I think he invests like you would expect someone who was a financial planner to do. You'll see in these first results under report type, a lot of these things called periodic transaction reports. These are reports that have to be made under the Stock Act, which was a law signed into law in 2012 that required members of Congress and people in the executive branch to disclose transactions that happened during the year. So before the Stock Act, federal officials only disclosed their finances annually, or if you were a candidate running for the House or Senate or president, you've had to file one of these reports when you became a candidate. But otherwise, there was no other information disclosed during the year. Now, when these officials sell or purchase an asset, they have to disclose it within 30 days. So that's what these reports are. So it's not real-time information, but it's way more real-time than they used to disclose. So we'll see here, we'll just pick one out, periodic transaction report for December 7th, 2021. We see the Senator Peters on November 29th, 2021, owner self, so they disclose whether it's for themselves, their spouse alone, or something jointly held, purchased somewhere between $1,001 and $15,000 of stock in ConAgra. So they show they don't tell you the specific dollar amount, but they have these ranges, and the ranges get wider the further up the scale you go. So here we have a range of about $14,000, but when they get to like $1 million, it becomes $1,000,001 to $5 million. The ranges get quite large, so even less granular detail than we have here. House members also have to disclose the same kind of information. Here is a website for the clerk of the House, disclosures-clerk.house.gov. We can click on financial disclosure, forums, and reports. And then search reports, we can type in a name. I'll type in Speaker Nancy Pelosi. I'm not only picking on Democrats here. We'll get to some Republicans too. So there's, you see original, the FD original, financial disclosure original, or amendment. Sometimes when a member figures out they made a mistake on their disclosure, they'll file an amended version. And here you see the abbreviation PTR. That's those periodic transaction reports like you saw in the Senate. So look at her 2020 financial disclosure. And you see the same kind of information that you would see in the Senate. We didn't look at an annual report in the Senate, but it has the same kind of information as one in the House. So you see assets here and unearned income. So that's income that's not from a salary; it's from an investment. You see that she made between $100,001 and $1 million selling grapes for her winery. You see it's jointly held by her and her husband, and the winery itself is valued somewhere between $5 million and $1 and $25 million. You go further down, you see all of her securities holdings. And then summary of all of her transactions during the year. And here you have the section on earned income. So it's very unusual for a member of Congress to have earned income outside of their congressional salary. They can up to a certain amount, and there are certain kinds of jobs that are expressly prohibited, but some are allowed. But that is extremely unusual. But you will see their spouses' positions listed here. They may have, sometimes if a member of Congress has a pension from a previous job, that information might be disclosed here. And also their liabilities are disclosed here. And positions they hold outside of their office, which are typically typically nonprofits, but it could be some corporation that might be holding a bunch of their investments or something like that. Now, as far as the executive branch, President Biden and Vice President Harris list their financial disclosures on the White House website, which is kind of a new thing. So you can see President Biden's 2020 financial disclosure. That'd be the most recent one filed. And you can see the same kind of information, positions held outside government. So this was covering the year 2020, so before he became president. You see the same kind of stuff you saw in the House and the Senate. But these kinds of disclosures for the executive branch, including the president and vice president, are usually disclosed through what's called the OGE, the Office of Government Ethics. We can go to their site. So we'll search Trump. And we see Donald J. Trump. This says termination. That was the report he filed upon leaving office. Call it termination report. You see same form that President Biden filled out. And as you might expect, President Trump's financial disclosure is very long. I think it's something about around 80 pages long. So lots of information here. So this is what you'd call unstructured data. It's not downloadable in a nice clean spreadsheet that you can slice and dice the data up. It's on a website or in a PDF or something like that, or a scanned document, which is even worse to deal with. So something that's very interesting is what the website Unusual Whales has done with some of this data. Unusual Whales is a market data website. They have subscription plans and things like that for investors to use data tracking the markets. But what's interesting is what they've done with this financial disclosure data. They have several different projects they've done with it, but this one in particular, you can just Google Unusual Whales and I Am the Senate will take you to this page where they brought together the House reports and Senate reports. They've done reports on members of Congress profiting off of war, on weed and crypto, all kinds of things. And they've taken a particular interest in Speaker Nancy Pelosi, so they've created what they call the Pelosi ETF. And they've taken all of her positions and they're tracking where they shake out in real time, which is, I've never seen something quite like this before, because usually members of Congress, they file these reports and some news organization will do a story on the 10 richest members of Congress, the 10 poorest members of Congress, something like that. But I've never seen a place really track this stuff in real time. And it's interesting not just to see, what a wealthy person is doing with their money and how they're making out, but how these investments intersect with current events. And that gets back to the debate we talked about at the beginning about should members of Congress even be allowed to invest like this. And that has not been settled yet. And I suspect that debate's going to go on for a while, because I don't think members of Congress want to restrict their ability to invest. But this is how I wanted to show you how you find the data that Unusual Whales has taken and made so nice and accessible, but where that stuff actually comes from, so you can look at it yourself and make your own decisions. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here. I hope this was valuable information on how politicians invest their money and how you can figure that out. Thanks, and I'll talk to you again soon.